So as to not get confused about the titles of these movies, I'm just gonna refer to this one as Scream 5. I mean, we all know it's Scream 5. Might as well just call it that. Admittedly, it sounds better than Five Cream, when you really think of it. Oh well. So Scream 5 was directed by Matt Bettinelli, Olpen, I probably mispronounced that, and Tyler Gillette. They were the directors of the movie Ready or Not. And once again, we have a new Ghostface killer who's killing a bunch of people, and people from the previous movie, Sidney Prescott, Dewey Riley, Gail Weathers, they all come back and try to end this reign of Ghostface again. And I was not excited for this movie. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I am a massive Scream fan. I was such a massive fan of this franchise that I even defended 3 for a while. Yeah, yeah, I was one of those people. And I do really enjoy this franchise overall. I do like the blend of horror and comedy. I do like the characters. I do like their commentary on horror movies. And I wasn't really too interested because there wasn't really enough to really build off of with this movie, it seemed like. And also, with the passing of Wes Craven, I just felt like it was sacrilegious to have someone else direct this movie. And even with Kevin Williamson not returning to write this either, which last time he didn't write a Scream movie was Scream 3, so that was also problematic. So I went in this movie with mostly low expectations, and after thinking about it for a day, I kind of enjoyed it. There's a lot in this movie that I kind of enjoyed. I'm actually really glad I actually saw this. So what works? Well, mainly the characters are really good. Like, it's always great to see, Dewey, Sydney, Gale back. And I really like their performances this time around. I feel like their performances got better than they have been in some of their more recent movies. Like Scream 4, their performances are fine, but they didn't really do much. Here, they're better, even though, admittedly, I don't like their amount of screen time. A lot of the new people I think are really good. Melissa Barrera, she's the new. I would say she's kind of like the new Sydney of this movie. Her character's really good. I thought her performance was decent, so I liked her. Jack Quaid is also really good, kind of as this boyfriend who's kind of clueless about a lot of things, but he's a mostly likable character. Um, Jenna Ortega as Melissa Barrera's sister, I thought she was really good. The twins Mason Gooding and Jasmine Savoy Brown, I thought they were fine. They didn't really get to do too much, and I'll talk about that in my negatives about this movie. Also, Marley Shelton I thought was actually really good. She was in Scream 4, and I did not like her in that movie. Here, she has a few good moments, and I liked her in this movie, so I'll give it that. Also, a lot of the kills in this movie are really scary and really creative for the most part. I thought that was a lot of fun. Also, there's a lot of callbacks to not just Scream 1, but like all the Scream sequels. So I actually really like that. It kind of just pays homage to not just the original, but all of them. Like, and also I like some of the moments where it's like, oh, it's not necessarily a direct reference, but it's like a trademark from the movies. So I really like that as well, mainly from like the musical cues. Also, this movie is actually pretty funny at times. Like, that's not really surprising. If you've ever seen a Scream movie, you know they're pretty funny. But this one may be surprisingly the funniest out of all of them, I would say. There were moments where I was actually kind of laughing at like a lot of the dialogue that they were saying, so that was also surprisingly well done, and considering these guys have directed Ready or Not, which is a horror comedy, yeah, that's not that bad actually. And I still like that this movie is still subverting a lot of expectations. There were so many things like, okay, I kind of predicted where this is going. And no, I couldn't predict that. That was actually one of the few things I actually did like in that, even though we're 5 movies into this franchise and there hasn't been another movie in a decade, they're still managing to subvert a lot of my expectations for this franchise. And I really like this about the Scream franchise in general. They try to keep you guessing throughout. And I really like that in this movie throughout, because there were times where I felt like I didn't really know who the killer was, and yeah, I also really like that. And I also really enjoyed their commentary, not just about horror movies, but about horror movies about movies in general, about the requel. That was an interesting conversation. And it kind of made me think of like what movies are kind of just doing in general. Like, I've been talking about it, they're just kind of redoing the original movies and just calling them sequels because they have the characters in them from the previous movies. Kind of talked about that with Matrix, and I talked about that with Star Wars, and yeah, I feel like I feel like with Scream it definitely worked. So I did enjoy that commentary a bit. Now, even though I did admit that it kind of kept guessing like who the killer was throughout the movie, admittedly I predicted one of the killers right away, and it's unfortunately not as surprising as the movie thinks it is. And even though there are moments where it's like, I kind of started like turning over to other people who might be the killer. I still had my suspicions about this one person, and unfortunately, I was right. And I don't like that. I feel like with a Scream movie, I feel like I should just kind of just be caught off guard by who the killer is, and yet this movie, I wasn't really. And there's some of the new characters, even though I think they do the best they can with their performances, like the actors do, I feel like a lot of them are very poorly written. There are a ton of characters throughout this movie, and there are some characters who are just so who they just appear and they don't really do anything. And at times it's like they kind of just disappear for a while and they don't return until like the final act. And I just felt like they could have done a lot more. I feel like they were poorly written. The actors did the best they could, but I just wish they were better characters. Like I remembered some of the supporting characters from the original Scream movie, like obviously Tatum and Randy and Stu, but here not so much, unfortunately. Also, there's the balance between the new characters and the old characters, which I feel like didn't really work too well. Like with Melissa Barrera's character, she's the main character, and I thought she was good. And also with Jack Quaid in the movie, I thought he was decent. But I kind of wished I had a little bit more of the old characters, and some of the new characters just didn't work for me entirely. But I kind of wish there was a little bit more of that balance, I guess. And also, there's a few plot lines in this movie that I felt just did not make any sense, and I'm kind of trying to wrap my head around some of them, and I'm like, how did that happen? When did this happen? It just kind of didn't make sense. Oh well. And I feel like I'm going to talk about this in a spoiler review, so I might give it a couple days before I upload a spoiler video. But overall, Scream 5, I enjoyed it for the most part. The acting's really good, a lot of the kills are really good, the commentaries are interesting, the callbacks are great, and it can be funny. I was still very surprised throughout this entire movie, but I wish I was surprised in ways that I I wish I was surprised in ways that truly was satisfying, mainly with who the killers were. And I kind of wish some of the characters had a little bit more of a had more character. I kind of wish these characters were more than just good performances. And I kind of wish that there was a bit more of the balance between like the old characters and the new characters. And I still enjoyed it for the most part. I wouldn't mind owning this on Blu-ray. So I kind of will recommend Scream 5. I'll give it 3 out of 4 stars. See it. So, what's your favorite scary movie? Comment down below. Subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.